Hello friends, so today's video is going to be the Finally Fall book tag. Before we jump into the tag questions, a big thank you to glassesusa.com for working with me on today's video. This time around, because I've found that I tend to wear similar styles pretty often, so the last time I talked about glassesusa.com, I asked all of you which glasses should I get so that I could kind of go outside my comfort zone and maybe show some of you glasses that are more in the styles that you like. So this pair won by a lot when it comes to classic black glasses. A lot of you really like the slight tiny bit of cat eye in the corner, how it goes up. So this is what this particular pair looks like. I also wanted to get something that fits fall and sweater weather types of frames that wasn't just the classic round shape and then wasn't purely rectangular. And this was the pair that won for that. I actually love these. I can't wait until it's cold enough to wear sweaters because I think this with an oversized sweater is gonna be great. I'm gonna absolutely love them, and they're so giant. A big thank you to all of you for letting me know which glasses I should select. I'll have some other pairs that I wear quite frequently linked in the description bar down below in case you'd like to check those out. And if you're interested in glassesusa.com, I'll have them linked as well. Jumping into the tag, the first question says, in fall, the air is crisp and clear. Name a book with a vivid setting. I'm going to try and only answer these questions with books I've read this year. So The Stardust Thief for this answer. The Stardust Thief is sort of an adventure quest story that follows a woman who is going through the desert along with a prince who has always wanted to go on an adventure and knows nothing of what adventures actually entail, as well as a woman who's kind of mysterious. She's sort of a thief assassin-like character where you don't really know her motives and you're wondering if she's really helping them or if there's more to her accompanying them. And then you have our main character's Jinn bodyguard. And they're going through the desert. It's an 1001 Nights retelling. And I just feel like this is one of those stories where the setting is so much a part of everything, especially because it's an adventure story, especially because they're having to trek through the desert. They go into certain cities or certain towns, and then there's a certain culture within that town, and there's a certain way of acting there. And so it's not just literally the fact that it's a desert, but it's all those other things combined that sort of make the setting come to life. It's what made this go from just a fun adventure story to something a little bit more exciting and a little bit more interesting. The next question says, nature is beautiful but also dying. Name a book that deals with heavy topics like loss or grief. There are definitely quite a few books that I could list for this one. The one that I have talked about the most recently would be Belladonna. So this is a story that follows a young woman who cannot die. However, it would seem as if everybody involved in her life, they end up dying. And so she's the one left behind. And so you do see what that's like, the toll it takes, and having to grieve. But on top of that, it would seem that the next family that takes this young woman in, the matriarch of the family has just died, and then the daughter is also about to die. And so our main character is trying to keep that from happening. Beyond just seeing with our main character, her name is Signa, the toll that having those around you die takes on a person, you also see it in this particular family that she ends up living with. I really liked how they showcased, especially the father of the family, who just lost both his wife, and now it would seem his daughter is likely going to die as well. And so you're seeing how that affects him. And then he has a son, and the son is trying to keep everything together, but he's on edge. And so I think it handles these topics quite well. The next question says, fall is back to school season. Share a nonfiction book that taught you something new. I'd say most nonfiction teaches you something new, but the one in particular that I found especially fascinating, it was one interesting thing after the next, would be The Hidden Life of Trees, which just talks about trees that are within these old growth forests and how they essentially communicate with one another. If you've had the chance to watch the documentary Green Planet, there's a lot of similar information in that documentary that you find in this book. The next question says, in order to keep warm, it's good to spend some time with the people we love. Name a fictional family, household, or friend group that you'd like to be a part of. I loved Nettle and Bone, and I enjoyed all of the characters when I described this book. Obviously, a lot of you have heard me talk about it before. You probably don't need me to go in depth about what it's about, but in case you have no idea, it follows a young woman named Mara who's trying to help her sister, who has been married off to a prince that mistreats her. And so, in order to try and accomplish what seems like this impossible task, our main character, Mara, bands together with a disgraced knight, a fairy godmother who specializes in curses, and a dust wife who has the ability to speak with the dead. And this group of people I just found really entertaining. There's also a potentially demonic chicken and a dog named Bone Dog who's made of bones, and Bone Dog is adorable. And it's just fun, even though it's quirky and strange. I just liked that group. Like, I wanted to go on that quest with them, you know? Because most of the time, I don't know, like Six of Crows, I feel like people are like, oh, I love them, and I want to be a part of that. And I'm like, really though? Because, I mean, Kaz is pretty mean. And anyway, so this particular group, though, I'm like, they actually all seem like they'd be cool to hang out with. The one lady, the fairy godmother who specializes in curses, she doesn't want to specialize in curses. She wants to be able to bless people, but she's like, I'm not as good at that. And so she's like a nice old lady, and then the dust wife is kind of grouchy and is always having an issue with everything. And so I'm like, I love both of them because I like old ladies. And then Mara's just funny and kind of quiet and to herself and a little strange, and I loved her. And then Disgraced Knight is just, he's a good guy. So I loved all of them. The next question says, the colorful leaves are piling up on the ground. Show us a pile of fall-colored spines. I want to ask really quick, how many of you live somewhere where things actually change colors? Because I'm very jealous of all of you, because that doesn't happen where I live. Anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and say most of Vinland Saga has sort of a fall look with its colors, and I'm being lazy and I don't want to mess up my shelf, so that. Question 6 says, fall is the perfect time for some storytelling by the fireside. Share a book wherein somebody is telling a story. I'm gonna go with Justice of Kings in this one. This is one where you hardly even realize someone's telling you a story because you're so engrossed in what they're telling you that you're like, oh yeah, there's an actual character telling you this. This follows Sir Conrad von Volt, who is somebody who is basically judge, jury, and executioner all in one. However, he is very honorable and he takes his job very seriously, but the book definitely questions if it is okay for one individual to have that much power. There's a lot of questions that come about when it comes to justice, and there's arguments between the characters about what is right, and there's also even basically a courtroom scene within this fantasy world that I really enjoyed. But the main character is not actually that man. The main character is his apprentice, and in present day, she's an old woman, and now she's telling you about being an apprentice to this man. So I really liked the setup. I'm not always a fan of let me tell you my life story, and I'm wondering if it's because I don't like the unreliable narrator, typically, who's like, I'm going to tell you my life story, basically Name of the Wind, where I'm like, yeah, I don't really feel like you're telling us the truth, though. I feel like you're elevating yourself. I will say I did like Bloodsong, but I didn't read that recently. And like I said at the beginning, I'm trying to stick to stuff I've read recently. So Justice of Kings, I liked it quite a bit. I highly recommend it. The next question says, the nights are getting darker. Share a dark, creepy read. There's quite a few things that could fall into this, but I'm going to go with What Moves the Dead. Sorry to mention T. Kingfisher again, but this is a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher. And that is an Edgar Allan Poe story. So it's creepy. This person who goes back to visit some people that they know, and then they don't look like they have great health currently. They seem like perhaps they are dying. But then really strange things start happening with them, and the main character is trying to figure out if it's to do with their health, or if it's to do with something with the house, or something with the lake outside the house. And if it's any of those things, is it something sinister, or is it something just that's affecting how they're able to function? And it can be quite creepy. Question 8 says, the days are getting colder. Name a short, heartwarming read that could warm up somebody's cold and rainy day. So the most recent thing that I've picked up that fits this would be The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, I believe is the full title. And this was adorable. So it follows a woman who is a witch living in our world. Our world does not know about witches. They aren't supposed to know about witches, and witches have to keep their magic a secret to keep themselves safe. And then our main character finds out that there are these 3 little girls who are not in control of their magic. They themselves are witches, but they have had no guidance. And so she is hired to try and teach these girls how to control their magic. And one of the individuals who has been caring for these little girls, he's kind of like a grumpy librarian, and he's adorable, and it's got the grump sunshine trope, which was very cute. But then the other individuals who have been helping to raise these orphans, all of the characters are so cute and so sweet. The little girls are adorable, and for me, it was, I mean, you can probably figure from the synopsis it sounds similar to House in the Cerulean Sea. For me, it was kind of what I wanted House in the Cerulean Sea to be, because I didn't love that one, and I thought this one was adorable. I'll also mention Master of Iron. This is the sequel to Blade of Secrets, and I have just found that Trisha Levenseller, so I'm kind of more so talking about this author rather than the individual book, although the book was also cute. But Trisha Levenseller, Warrior of the Wild, Blade of Secrets, and its sequel, Master of Iron, they just put me in a really good mood when I'm reading them. I'm just like, wow, these are cute, and I have a good time. They're YA kind of adventure stories, and they're just precious, you know? It's almost like turning on the TV with like a little kid family member of yours and watching something that they also are having a good time with, but you as the adult are kind of getting into it and you're like, no. That's how I feel about her books. The last question says, fall returns every year. Name an old favorite that you'd like to return to soon. Sailor Moon. I loved Sailor Moon growing up. I was absolutely obsessed. It would come on really early in the morning where I lived, so I remember like getting up super early and going into like my mom's bedroom and then watching Sailor Moon. And I used to buy these VHS that had, I believe, 3 episodes each on the VHS, and I'd get them from a store called Suncoast, which I don't think exists anymore, but I was always so excited to see if they had any that I didn't have, because eventually they stopped showing it on TV, and then I was really sad, and we didn't have cable, and I'm like, but Sailor Moon. And then as an adult, I have the Sailor Moon, the really beautiful Eternal edition, and I remember showing it to my dad, and I was like, Dad, do you remember when I used to love Sailor Moon? And he remembered, and he was like, oh, that's really cool, it looks really pretty. My dad was so sweet. Anyway, so Sailor Moon, I really want to get back to it. That's it for the Finally Fall book tag. A big thank you again to GlassesUSA.com for working with me on today's video. Thanks so much for watching. I'd love to know your answers to these questions. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.